do it.
All right. You got to fill up that jar back there behind you. It's
I
looking
know
kind of empty.
I'm out of candy. So,
What do you fill it up with? What's the
well,
go-to?
it had Thin Mints in there. And,
Okay.
so yeah, I'm kind of out now.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for those what's the brand? Bob's, the soft
Oh,
peppermints.
oh yeah. Oh
Gosh.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I used to keep those stashed in the truck.
Yeah. I put them
Yeah.
out. I keep some in my drawer. I put them out and everybody comes in and gets them. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
So, do you feel like okay, this movie is a little before my time. I was alive, but I was like 3 or 4. But do you feel maybe a little like Michael Corleone? Like just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Like,
But
or were you set on being like, I'm going again?
no, I really weren't. I wasn't. I'd kind of decided, 3 terms. It was time to kind of do it. And then plus I'm, 66 years old. So,
Sure.
but still working. And so I kind of thought this might be it. And just had some people talk to me about, we're going to have a changeover in mayor. And I'm pretty excited. I'm sad about Buddy leaving because I think Buddy's been a fabulous mayor. But I'm excited about our 2 possibilities, so I feel good about that. But when Perry said he wasn't going to run, it was just I felt like it was just going to leave a big gap of brand new people, and there's some fabulous people running too, by the way. And I know maybe you've talked to some of them, but we got some young folks that are running. I'm excited about it, but just had some people say, hey, we need a little bit of experience to stay, and so from that, I just decided to go one more time.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a big commitment. So like,
It
and this
is.
is, and so you're like, I haven't talked to Jamie yet as of this recording. Y'all being the 2 incumbents that will be running again. But like, what was for I know for these newer folks, the decision making process has been, a kind of a crazy ordeal, and you've been through that back in like 2012. But like, was the decision making process? Did it take you a long time this time, or was it? Like after some people said, "Hey, we might need some experience up there on the podium," you were kind of like, "Okay, I'll just do it." How did it kind of unfold for
Now
you?
it took a little while of some prayer and all and really both mayor candidates both asked me if I would consider staying, and so that weighed in a good bit for me to know that whichever one of them, and it could be others that come in, but those two, that they felt it was valuable that I tried to go another term, and so that was probably one of the deciding factors. Other than just some close friends that just said, hey, we care about the city. Would you consider just doing it one more time? So
Yeah, just 4 more years. That's all.
4 more years. Yeah,
Just give us. I mean, you did an extra year this time.
I know.
Like,
Yeah, this one was 5 years. Yeah, we should be starting into the first year of this term anyway. So yeah,
that's so crazy.
yeah.
What do you think? So like the newcomers. Like, is that whoever, I mean, we're so far out. Like, that's what I had to talk to them about, was, y'all got till June to decide really which, y'all are saying you're running for, this place, that place. You don't have to decide for 3 more months. You got time. But is that, I kind of lost my train of thought, which is great for a podcast, but like, but just having those newcomers, like, do you kind of see your role? Like, if you end up running unopposed and or even if you run against somebody and you're reelected, do you kind of see your role changing a little bit based on a lot more new folks?
Yeah, I think experience helps in this. I think, I remember back to when my first term I served. Your first year or two, I mean, it's the lingo's a little different and all the things. And I mean, I felt like the first couple of years that I was in there, I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. At that time, Mayor Melton, I mean, they're talking about things and it's just swirling around in my head. And I'm like, I'm not even sure I know what they're talking about. I'm not sure I know
Yeah,
what the subject matter is. So it takes you a little time to get acclimated to all the lingo and all the stuff. But and I think I would be able to help them with that. And I had some people back then that helped me with that. Buddy Choate was one of them. He had served a term, and people like him could help, kind of help me with that. And so I think I could serve that role to kind of help them with the transition. And it is a transition.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of what, when we started looking at who was going to run and stuff, I think, maybe like, because I'll have people ask me at different, meetings or whatever, boards that you're on, you know how all the talk and stuff happens. And people ask me, who do you think's going to run? And I did my own like little prediction thing. And I was like, well, I think we're going to have Ben versus Lisa. And so I was like, I got that. Kind of had a feeling Perry was not going to run again. Kind of had a feeling Jamie would. And then you were the wild card. I was like, I could see this kind of going either way. And ultimately, I was like, wow, 3 terms. He's probably tapping out. He's going to be like Perry in a way and be like, I'm kind of done. So you're the one I got wrong.
Well, and you probably would have been right. And Perry. Perry's been great to serve alongside, and and he's had some health issues and all, and I think that was probably played into his. The good news is I'm still healthy. I still got a lot of energy. I've kind of committed here at my job to hang around for a couple more years and help with kind of things we're doing here. So I still enjoy working. I'm not ready to retire from everything. I enjoy getting up every morning and going to work and doing things. So, but probably a year ago, you'd have won that bet. Probably you'd have been okay. And but
things change.
Yeah, it did, and especially when both Ben and Lisa decided to run. And by the way, I think both of them are highly qualified. I'm excited about
that's going to be a crazy race.
It is. It's going to be a crazy, and of course, being there, I get all kinds of calls about what should I do? And look, I've told them all I'm staying completely out of this. This is because I have a lot of respect for both of them. I've enjoyed serving with both of them, and they're both really, really smart. They both really, really love Trussville, and that's really what matters. Is they both really care about our city, and so it's going to be a tight race.
Yeah, I think so too. We just got to get, at some point, turnout in Trussville's just got to be like, let's climb it a little bit. It's kind of it's notoriously low.
Yeah, that's the disappointing thing. Now we have about 20,000 registered voters in Trussville, and when you have 3,000, 3,500 show up to vote, I mean it's disheartening a little bit if because
sure.
Campaigning's not easy, and people put a lot of time and effort into it, and you would hope people would turn out and they cared enough about it, and I think people in Trussville care about it. I just think it's an election that there's not a lot of things on there, and I think people just don't get out and vote for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, like that, like the last 2 big things that I remember, 2020 you had, I'm trying to remember when that election, COVID or whatever, but I remember the day of that municipal election, it rained in 2020. And I had a lot of people just be like, ugh, I'm not going to go stand in a line. It was raining. And so turnout was really low. I know in particular that hurt one certain person who also didn't campaign as much. So there was that too. But, and then the recent tax vote that was voted down, I heard from some people who were kind of in my age range, right? And they're kind of, they're involved with the schools, their kids go. So if you want to use buzzwords these days, if they're in their quote unquote echo chamber, if you want to call it that, I know that's a big buzzy word. Yeah. They heard about it a ton, and everyone that they talk to are kind of, like-minded, and they're busy. They've got kids. And so they didn't go vote because they were like, seems like it's a slam dunk that it's going to pass.
Yeah.
And so they just didn't go. And I'm like, no, you can't do that.
Gotta vote. Yeah. And we knew that vote was going to be close. And tough economic times during that time. I get it. A lot of inflation. And so, the timing for that probably wasn't right, but our schools are important, and we still got to figure out a way to get that done.
Yeah, let's go into some of that. And before we really dive into it, that's something I've said. I forget who I said it with because I've been on a run of city council candidates on the podcast. I know a lot of people are ready to just say stick to sports, and I mean I'm kind of ready to get back to that too. But I've got to give the flowers to Dr. Martin, like to come in, you know, in a tough situation, one with everything that transpired before, and he comes in, takes that over, and then your first real big public ask is to, hey, guy that's not from here, stranger, new superintendent guy, go into these neighborhoods and ask people for their money.
Yep.
Like that in the way that he did it, and just to, the way he explained it to me was, I'm not going to go in and really try to beg or anything like that. He was just like, I'm just going to tell people why and present it that way. And so I found a lot of respect for him, that, to come in with, to have to lead through some of that, like you said, during a tough economic time, and be someone who's, not from here, whatever, and ask those things and tell people this is why it's important. It seems like he's proven himself the man for the job.
Oh, absolutely. And what we heard from the people during the tough times there with the school situation is, people just wanted transparency. They wanted somebody just to tell them like it is and to be honest. And that's what he did. And I mean, it hurts for an Auburn guy to use this analogy. But I mean, Dr. Martin's a Nick Saban type hire. I mean, I think he's the best of the best out there. And he I mean, he really was the man for the job. And it was stormy, and he's calmed the storm, and he's done it. He's just real, and he's honest, and he's been honest through the whole campaign. I mean, I went to many of his town halls, and he was just himself, and he was honest. He was just told the people the way it is. And so
Yeah.
it didn't work. But I don't think it was because of him. I think it was more a sign of the times. And but I agree with you. He is the man for the job.
Yeah. Well, Matt, and it's like kind of the example I used of kind of people in my age bracket that, oh, it's a slam dunk, that kind of deal. I mean, it doesn't matter what story is out there, what way something might be trending. We think it's going to pass. We don't think it is. Your older group, they're always going to show up to vote,
Absolutely.
and they did.
Absolutely. And when you talk about in Alabama, especially when you talk about taxes and you talk about, in affecting somebody's pocketbook, people are passionate about that. And I get it.
Yeah.
And, I don't like them either. And I don't like it. I don't like things that affect my pocketbook, but,
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, the more seasoned people did show up, to vote, so it didn't go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we get into some of that priorities and school stuff, I am going to clip that Nick Saban reference, and
Yeah.
I'm going to plaster it
Yeah,
everywhere.
don't hold that against me. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even, you can't deny the truth, even if you're Auburn, and, the happiest day for us is the day he retired. And I'll just tell you, and I mean, I think the coach they have now is a good coach, but I mean, Nick Saban just did it like nobody else did it. And
Nobody is Nick Saban.
no,
That's
I'm telling
right.
you, I'm
That
telling you.
is right. Let me ask you this, but we'll divert into sports for a minute. I gotta ask you this as an Auburn guy, because I'm an Alabama guy.
Oh yeah.
Let's not get into recency in Alabama basketball over the last 2 weeks, because it's just not worth it. My wife's a Florida person, so last night, a little tough in the house. But would you rather, since Auburn's had just, even them losing at Texas A&M the other night, to me, they're still the number one team in the country.
Yep.
If they're obviously going to go in as a number one seed, whether that's the overall number one or not, we'll see. If they had to lose in the NCAA tournament, like if they just lose in the next month, would you rather them get upset 16 over a 1 and they lose in the very first round, or would you rather them make it all the way to the national championship and lose to Alabama?
Oh, go to the national championship and lose to Alabama. No question about it. And I'll be honest with you. And of course, I look through it through rose-colored glasses. I get it, but I think probably Alabama, Auburn, and Florida are the three best teams. And Tennessee's probably not far behind, but I
Yeah.
think those are probably the three best teams in the country. I'm not talking about the SEC. I'm talking about the
Oh
country.
yeah.
And it would not surprise me. And I saw one of the, I think it was Lenardi's bracket the other day, and I looked, and I think they had Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, and Florida all in separate areas.
Oh, it
So
could
in the
happen.
four, and I thought, it really could happen that the national championship would be all SEC. I don't think it would be. I mean, I think for sure there could be two in the national
Oh
championship,
yeah.
regardless. But I mean, we could have three or four, which would be, and for me, that would be great.
That would be.
As an Auburn guy, I hate losing to Alabama, but still, how cool would that be for our state if those
Yeah.
two ended up in the national championship game? That would just be,
My gosh, I just can't imagine what the state would look like.
oh, it just
Like 'cause
different.
it's like we know the Iron Bowl, but like for a national championship, even if it's, I mean, I'm a basketball guy over football, always have been. I've always said I would trade 5 football national titles for one in basketball, and people say I'm crazy, and I'm like, well, we've got 17 or 18 of them. Let's just give 5 and give me one in basketball.
I've been a football season ticket holder at Auburn for probably 25, 30 years. And I've had four seats there forever. And I said recently, I just about give up my 4 football seats for 2 basketball seats. I had basketball tickets years ago, and I gave them up because it's hard when you live here to, especially
Yeah.
midweek, to get down there. But I'd do it
Yes.
now. I could kick myself for getting rid of them because now it's almost impossible to even get back on the waiting list.
Yep. That's what I like. In watching that game in particular, I mean, this will come out after this, but watching that game in particular last night against Florida, like to me, it showed me, and I know you can't base everything on one game, but it just, this time of year, it made it more obvious to me. Like, I just personally, for Alabama, I don't think the toughness factor is there to make that kind of run. Like now, if they're shooting the lights out, you know, their defense is what it is. If they're going to score 100 points, I mean, the other team might score 98, but 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to get the job done. I just don't think they've got that enough toughness inside to make it through 6 games in the tournament. Now I look at obviously a team like Auburn and a team like Florida. I think both of those do. Those would be my top 2 teams. I mean, like we're kind of disregarding Duke here, but I think those 2 teams have to be the favorites.
I think through the whole season, Auburn has probably been of the SEC has been the most consistent week in and week out. Even though
Yeah.
really Wednesday night they looked like, or Tuesday night they looked like, they were tired. They just didn't
Yeah.
play with any intensity. But I think throughout the whole season they've been the most consistent. But to me, Alabama's still the scariest team out there because when they start shooting, there is no stopping them. You can't get out to the perimeter enough to stop them because Sears, some of those guys, they just keep backing up and they just keep shooting. They keep hitting. When they're hitting, they're the scary.
Yeah.
To me, they're the scariest team out there.
Yeah. That's like they're a team that to me, this particular Alabama team, like they look like a team that I think there's only like 2 routes for them in the NCAA tournament. I either see them reaching the Final Four or losing in the round of 32.
Yeah.
I just don't see much in between.
Yeah.
Like boom or bust.
But I will tell you, and be sure to tell your wife this: if as an Auburn guy, if I had to choose right now, do I want to play Alabama or Florida? I think I'd choose Alabama. I mean,
Yeah.
Florida is playing so good right now, and they're big inside. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope if we have to play either one of them again, it's in the finals.
Yeah. Man, that's good. This March Madness is going to
It'll be
be
fun.
crazy this year. I can't wait. I really wanted to go to that game last night, but couldn't make it happen. So
Yeah,
at least it was on
it's gonna
TV.
be fun. Gonna be
All
fun.
right. Yeah. So back to local stuff. So like Well, we'll use the tax vote as the jumping off point. I would assume, and this is the same thing I've kind of said with other folks running. There's not a lot in Trussville that, like, you know, for them as newcomers, that you really have to run to change. Like Trussville, it's not like Trussville's in a bad spot. Like it's not like a community that's struggling that needs change or anything like that. But I would assume that the tax vote failing is probably the biggest challenge over the next 4 years.
Yeah, I think we've really seen the effects the last 2 years. We've really seen the effects of inflation in the economy here. I mean, from a city standpoint, our costs have gone up. I think the way we grew as a city, and the people coming in and us trying to keep up, keep our city services up, keep enough employees at the city, we had to grow the city employee base a little quicker than maybe we would have liked to. And that's caught up with us a little bit in the last couple of years. And so, yeah, I think that the biggest challenge over the next 3 or 4 years is as to see what happens with inflation is we've always kind of operated with fair amount of reserves, and that's not there now. And so we're having to, it's a little tighter, and we're every month we meet to talk about ways that we can trim cost. And so it's tough economic times. It has been. The last 3 or 4 years have been tough economic times for the whole state, well, for the whole country. But we felt it here for really for the first time. I think you with the inflation and then the growth, the way it was growing, and us trying to keep up with that, it caught us a little bit with that.
Is that probably, like you mentioned, the reserves? Is that like the growth and like having to keep up the services and stuff? Is that the large reason why there's less in the bank, basically?
Absolutely. And the other thing that continues to hurt us, and there's some legislation. I know Representative Garrett's helping us, and there's some legislation, but online shopping,
Oh yeah.
it affects cities, and we're hearing that from other cities all over, that you see a lot of Amazon trucks, you see a lot of Kroger trucks, and
Yes.
and we get some tax dollars from that, but it's not at the same level or rate as going to our local stores here and buying them. And so, that's come back and hit us a little bit. As you try to project, you do your budget based on projected um, income. And so it's been tough to project that with the online shopping. 70% of our budget is from sales tax, and so
Yeah.
we're dependent on that. So I tell everybody all the time, ordering at home, there's a lot of convenience, but man, it sure does help the city when we go and patronize our local stores.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of these places you've mentioned. I'm over in Stockton, so I probably see, I don't know, 3 Kroger trucks a day in the neighborhood. So I think if in the next 4 years y'all are able to start acquiring some Deerfoot property, might need to lure a Kroger over to Deerfoot and get
Yeah,
them in the city.
I'm telling you, and I don't know if it's Kroger so much, or it's the convenience of the delivery, but
It's the convenience of that
it
delivery.
is. It is. And I mean, it is so easy now to go online and buy what you need and have them just bring it to your house. And that's the society. And so we've got to adapt to that. I mean, I think that's our challenge over the next 3 or 4 years. And again, there's some legislation out there that hopefully would help us with that. And right now it's based on your size. And so we get more than some, but we get less than a lot of others. And so
So it's kind of like a
it's gonna be a challenge.
percentage thing. I used to know this, but I don't anymore. So like obviously like sales tax here, is it still 10 cents
It
on the
is.
dollar?
It is.
So what
And
do you
it's
get? What do you get for like when people, like if I'm at home and I order on Amazon because I'm in your 35173? What is the city getting based on online?
well, we get a percentage of that, but we don't get the same percentage as the 10. And I don't know exactly. I'd
Yeah,
have to
I used
look
to I used to
exactly what
know
it
it.
is, but it's less.
It's left. Yeah.
And it's, yeah, so it's um and of course it's better, a few years ago when it first started, we got nothing.
Yeah.
And so it's better, but we've got to keep working on that because I mean, for us to continue to offer the services that we offer, and I mean, to be honest with you, we're looking at all of that. We're looking at all the services, and you know, it's pretty good to live in Trussville. We do, you know, we have free garbage, we have free debris pickup, we have all of those services, and those are things that the current council and the next council is going to have to look at to see, you know, based on the way things are going, can we continue to do all of those things?
Right. Man. How do y'all deal with, like, from the money side of things? I mean, I know there's probably no set plan in place yet, but like with the millage tax increase being voted down, those school projects in particular, like I know C Wing at the high school is, you know, that's underway and all that, but a new elementary school, renovations, additions to the middle school, like, do those they just have to deal until there's a plan or what?
Well, we've got to find a way to do them, and that's one of our challenges is
Yeah.
we've got to find a way to get these things done. You know, none of these projects that we talked about during the tax vote were pie in the sky things. These are things that we, you know, need to do and need to get done, and we've got to figure out a way to do those. I mean, you know, the number of kids that we have at Payne right now is just, I mean, it's too much, and so
It's a lot of kids.
yeah, we've got to figure that out, and so that's going to be the biggest one of the biggest challenges for the next administration is to figure out how we can work with the schools, and the schools are doing great, and um, they're financially sound, they're doing great, but we got to figure out a way together to get those things done.
Man, I don't envy y'all's position. If you know whoever all is makes up the five, I don't envy it, but I respect it. If that
Well,
makes
thank you.
sense,
Yeah,
you know.
it's going to be a lot, but you know, this is a great community, and this community will figure it out. I'm telling you, because the one thing I do know, and again, disappointed that the tax thing didn't work, didn't pass. But the one thing I know is the people in Trussville love Trussville, and they love our schools, and you know, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what to do.
If there's like a whole bunch of fundraiser type events over the next 4 years, you gonna MC them all?
Well, yeah, I only if they ask. And you know what I tell everybody? I'm not that good at it, but the price is right. I'm the cheapest in town, so.
No,
Uh,
you're pretty good with a microphone now.
well, I appreciate that. I enjoy doing it. I really enjoy, you know, promoting our city and promoting the things that are going on and the causes. And I just did Dancers Against Cancer, and I've done that the last 3, 4, 5 years, and I just love what they stand for and what they're raising money for. And I just like being a part of that. I've done the school thing. I did retire this past year from the school foundation for the gala. I've
Yeah,
emceed the gala since the beginning, and I've
yeah.
enjoyed it. I love raising money for our schools. But you know, I don't know if you've noticed or not. I'm getting a little older, so I don't have as much energy as I once had. So.
Well, what are some like are like other than those financial challenges that are you know specifically for things like you said that aren't pie in the sky? Like, is there anything on the horizon that you feel like the next administration is going to have to deal with? Like, you know, whether it be building something, city services, are there any projects like that y'all know are probably coming or anything? Because right now it seems like everything's kind of, you know, about the schools. Other projects y'all have had are either kind of ongoing, already kind of paid for, or wrapping up, that kind of thing. Is there anything new, or is it probably going to be like a little bit of a pause while some money stuff works out?
Well, I think we grew. I think we grew quickly, and that created some financial issues. But you know, I told somebody recently. I may have said in the council meeting. You know, some will say, well, you know, let's grow, but then let's stop growing. Let's stop the growth until infrastructure catches up. And you know, growth is not a spigot you can turn on and turn off. I mean,
Oh,
you know, we've had a wave of momentum. People want to live in Trussville, and years ago when we started talking about building the downtown, the one thing I heard from a lot of people was, our young people are graduating from Hewitt-Trussville High School. They're going to college. They're starting their careers, and the ones that come back to Birmingham, they were not coming back to Trussville.
Right.
And what can we do to make our young people want to come back to Trussville and be a part of our community? And I think over the last 4, 5, 6 years, you've seen that. I mean, you see a lot of people that when I was announcing football all those years that I call their names, or the cheerleaders they're all coming back,
Yeah.
or many of them are coming back to Trussville now. And so that's kind of what we wanted. But I think, controlled growth, growing in a responsible manner. I think we're there. We can help do that. But people want to live here, and it's amazing, almost every day how people are wanting to move to Trussville. They're wanting to, and I think you've seen it reflected in our home values.
Yeah.
Was talking to somebody recently, and our home values over the last 6, 7 years have gone out the roof, and I think that's because Trussville is a desirable place to live, and a lot of young families, a lot of young professionals, and it's not the small town that it used to be. And I think the challenge for all future generations is how can we continue to grow responsibly, but keep that hometown feel. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. We have the Cahaba area. We have some school traditions. I still love on Friday night going to the football stadium, and the Trussville community shows out for those things. They come, they're there. And so, how can we keep that hometown feel, but continue to offer all the things that we offer now? So I think that's going to be a challenge.
That's something I mentioned. I'll tell a very quick story. I forget if this was before y'all moved to your temporary city hall. That might be temporary city hall for like a decade. Who knows? But this was at the original city hall. I was talking to Mayor Choate one day, and we were talking about, kind of, this was, oh gosh, this has been several years, but it was out of COVID, and so the entertainment district was starting to really like pick up because now we can actually all be outside together and stuff like that. And we were talking about how, kind of like what you just said, how you've got, for lack of a better term, you've got the old, like, I'll use the Cahaba project as an example there, where you've got your most historic area in the entire city right there, and then a half mile down the street that's out of that district, whatever, you've transformed that area of downtown. Because now I worked at Made Power for years, so I
Yeah,
was very accustomed to Morrow Avenue and what it used to look like.
absolutely.
I used to test lawnmowers up and down that road, and it was not great. It was a glorified alleyway. But you've got that a half mile down the road, and I told Buddy at the time, I said, it's kind of like you've got the best of both worlds in a way. Like, if you want to, see something the way it used to be, or kind of reflect on history and your, where you came from and that kind of stuff, you can go here. And then now at this point, you can, if you really want to take kind of a long walk, you can take that sidewalk all the way down. Now you can cross the road without worrying about getting hit at Main Street in Chalkville.
Absolutely.
And now you're in something that's brand new and entertaining and all that sort of thing. And it's kind of like you've got the best of both worlds within a mile of each other.
We do. And when you think about the downtown district and what that brings, you think about the Cahaba district and the history there. And you think about, we also, we have the Veterans Park that we have now, the memorial there that I hear of people, coming to Trussville to see that. And then you got the Cahaba River. And I mean, not very many cities have all of those things. And we got to figure out ways that we capture all of that. We advance that and let people know that we have all this here. But because very few cities have all of those things like that. So I think we got to capitalize on those.
Yeah. And I'll give I was there yesterday at the high school, so I'll give them a shout out. But, well, you would definitely know about this recently with the Gatekeeper Awards. You announced those this year too, right?
Yes.
like Amber Benson and her group, Leadership Hewitt Trussville, they've come to our historical stuff several times, and I know they've gone to a number of things. But I met with this new group yesterday, where they're picking up on a project we talked about, some months ago that they're going to carry through, and they've picked some quote unquote like kind of historical spots that are there's heritage there, there's a certain history to them, but they don't have like a historical marker like our historical society would put up or something like that. And they're wanting to put these markers, these smaller ones, maybe in a way like what Friends of Pinchgut did with their tree
Right.
and that kind of stuff, and put QR codes on them, and people can scan them, and then they learn about whatever that specific spot is. And I think I was a big proponent of them doing that, because I think that's a cool way to kind of take something from the past and bring it to where people are today. Like if you're walking the Greenway and they've got one there, and you can scan it and you learn a little bit about this or that, because everybody's got their phones out. And I'm a big fan of that project, and I know our historical society has contributed toward it. I know your church has contributed toward it, I believe. And so stuff like that, I think, is a cool advancement, like you said, and also a way to get these younger groups interested in where they came, or where they come from, and where they live, and maybe where they'll live after post-secondary and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And Miss Benson's done a great job with that leadership, HT leadership. And that kind of started after we started Leadership Trustful. And those have both been great things. People have that's been a part of Leadership Trustful has learned about our city, our all the things about it. 3 or 4 of the candidates, but maybe even more, the new folks that are running for city council have all been a part of Leadership Trustful. I mean, that's what it was all about. So that it's sparked an interest in people, and people have got to see a little bit of behind the scenes about what's going on and how much work goes into making our city what it is, and to see those younger people that say, I want to be a part of that, I want to help do that, is great. And then the Leadership HT, the one at the high school, I mean, the projects they've done, it's incredible how smart our kids are now. I mean, it's the historical project that they did, and there's been several projects that have come out of that group. We haven't had one yet, but I can't wait to see the first person that goes through our Leadership HT program, graduates, goes to school, comes back to Trussville, and then is part of our Leadership Trustful. We're not old enough yet for that to have happened, but it'll happen, because we got some great folks that's going through those programs.
Yeah, I can't remember the girl's name, but she came to our historical society maybe sometime in the last year. She was a senior, so she graduated this last year, so she would have been class of 24. And she came, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but she was supposed to have like a team member, classmate, come with her, and that person couldn't make it. And so now she's on her own, all by herself, facing me and all my historical society friends. And I was trying to like put myself back in her shoes, like when I was in school, if I had to go somewhere unfamiliar, talk to people unfamiliar that are all older than me.
No way I could have done it.
No. And she sat there, and like I kind of expected to because she knew who I was. Like, I mean, let's just be honest. I'm the youngest one in the group, so she knew who I was, and so I kind of thought I would like have to help her like a little bit, like remember some of the project stuff or talk about some aspect of it, right? And I just sat there and listened to her, and I was like, oh my God, like she's a pro. And then we all, naturally had a question or two for her after. And you would expect then, okay, hey, I've got a follow-up question on this. And you'd expect that to maybe trip her up a little bit. Not a single time.
That's awesome.
And she absolutely rocked it. And at times certain people can be hard to please. You know that as a council person.
Absolutely.
And when she left, our whole group was like, she was fantastic. Like everybody felt great about what she had presented and how she had presented herself.
And those groups, they do their projects. they come to Rotary and make presentations. They come to the city council and make presentations.
Yeah.
They come to a lot of different things. And I've never been at one that when they left and finished that somebody didn't say, I am blown away how
Yeah.
sharp these kids are, how smart they are. And I don't know. God let me be born at the right time because I wasn't near that smart in high school. Really not now, but they are a lot smarter than I remember me being back in those
Yep.
days. They're comfortable. They're comfortable in front of people, and
Yeah.
they're impressive. It's an
Yep.
impressive group.
Yep. And when the time is right, dare I say they're incredibly attentive, which these days can be a lot harder to come by because of that daggum thing.
Yep.
And because, I don't know if you know this, I've taken that leadership Hewitt Trussville group on a bus tour the last 2 years. Amber was like, can you make a tour of Trussville and we'll hit all the historical sites and all that? And I said, sure. And we go for like 2 hours. I really want Leadership Trussville to do it because I think it would be I think it would be a ton of fun. I think they'd learn a lot. And Leadership Trussville, we could go on like a nice Greyhound instead of the cheese wagon. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but so I take them on this, and we kind of make it interactive. In between stops or whatever, if there's some downtime, like I bring trivia questions and ask those, and whoever's first and gets it right, they've gotten a gift card, that kind of thing. So we make it fun. That we get off at 5 or 6 spots. But I was surprised that they, with their phones out, like I gave them all a QR code. When they scan it, it goes to a page I created that allows them to kind of follow the trip as we go. Because I can only remember so much without looking, that I'm just kind of hitting the highlights of these places. This place was made then, this is what happened here. And then they can follow along on their phone as we go. And I'm like, hey, if you scan that QR code where we're pulling up to now, I've got like 5 pictures of what this used to look like. So take a look at it now, look at it on your phone. And they'll sit there and ask questions. Nobody's, necessarily playing on TikTok or anything. They were excited to ask questions at even like the cemetery where your church originally was, and
where I'm going to be buried.
You got one of them last plots?
I do. I have. Me and my wife both have spots there. I thought that's where we need to be. So yeah,
you were one of the last ones to get in.
I was. Yeah. Yeah.
But like stuff like that, and they really seemed to take an interest. Like, some places more than others, but in my own, historically themed mind, sometimes I get in this deal of thinking, man, I'm one of the only ones that cares, that's in my age range or younger. And then I see them like taking pictures at, where the prison camp was, or asking questions as we drive by Queenstown Lake, because, that's so far on the south end of the city, right, that most of them had no idea it was even there. And I'm like, well, not only is it there, let me tell you what it was. And they really wanted to go there, but Miller Gorey owns every single bit of that.
Right.
And there's nowhere to pull off on Queenstown Road.
Yeah.
But anyway, just I was encouraged by that particular group that there is an interest there, and they're learning about it, and they seem to care enough to do a project on it, or talk about it with their friends, or tell their parents, hey, did you know this when you were growing up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's probably something we do need to add to the regular Leadership Trussville group. I mean, I agree. One of the highlights is the trivia thing we do, and I know that always gets really good reviews. I serve as liaison to the board, so I attend the board meetings for Leadership Trussville, and that's always a real positive thing. So we appreciate you doing that, and I think the more of that kind of stuff we do, the more people understand about Trussville, the better off we are.
Yeah, I've got it ready to go. Me and Christy Bradford worked on, like, we're doing that using Kahoot this time. Yeah. So I put in 2 games worth for the. Are y'all still calling it Rest of the Story Day?
Yes, that what it's Rest of the Story Day. Yep.
So I put in 2 games, and the only thing I'm kind of darn about is all of it now is multiple choice. So it'll be good. I think there will be a lot more dopamine hits for everybody because I think process of elimination, you're going to get a lot more right than you would
Right,
wrong. So
right.
that'll be fun. But I was like, man, I've got to like come up with 3 wrong answers, but like try to make them seem like they could be right.
Good,
And
good wrong answers. Yeah.
yeah, good wrong answers, but like some of them are like so obviously wrong that
Well, you should have seen at the board trying to explain to most of us that are more in the seasoned area than we are in the young area, explain about cahoots to them. I mean, that was
Christy
foreign
had
to a lot of people.
Christy had to explain it to me. I was like, what is a I was like, what's a cahoot? I was like,
Well,
no
having
idea.
having been at the church, our student ministry here uses it all the time, and our children's ministry. So I had actually seen it before, but yeah, most people it was foreign. Like, what is cahoots?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to doing that again.
Yeah, it'll be good.
That'll be fun. It'll be cool that it's now in another version too that can be used, that's a little more accessible, a little more
Yeah,
user friendly than just Jeopardy or whatever. So
absolutely.
that'll be fun. Um, let's start to wrap this thing. What are some more like over the next 4 years? Like, gosh, it's a long time out, but and y'all have got like we talked about some of the challenges and stuff like that. But what do you want to see those 4 years be? Is there like I don't know, is there a way to kind of project out like a description of how you want those 4 years to go? What do you want to see from the city over those 4 years?
Well, I think, I'm of the opinion, whatever it is, whether it's your business or a city or church, whatever it is, that you're either moving forward and you're growing or you're going backwards. There's no sitting still. And so, I think we as a city, when you looked at the 2040 plan, they kind of projected back when we did that several years ago that, by 2040 we'd have 35,000 people. We're probably clipping 30 now.
Yeah.
So I think controlled growth, trying to attract businesses that really fit our community. A lot of businesses want to come here, and but try to facilitate some businesses that really enhance our city, that kind of thing. So, I hope we continue to grow at a controlled pace. We need a new city hall. I mean, I think for a city our size and what we've done, I hope in the next 4 or 5 years we get to build a city hall. We need to have one of those. Right now is not the right time. I mean, we've got to make sure we're fiscally responsible, and so it's not really the right time now. But we do need to do that. I think where we are right now don't meet the standard um, that we ought
No,
to
that
see.
that building, not the one y'all are in now, not the annex, but the Main Street City Hall. I mean, that thing was built in 1959.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't meet the standard of today and today's size.
And we just outgrew it. I mean, is one thing, you can come in and remodel space and make it more modern, but you can't, I mean, adding space is, the Trussville Gas and Water is about to redo their facility, and with that there'll be a spot, there'll be a pad, a
Yeah.
piece of dirt that the future city hall will go on. And I don't know when that'll happen, but at some point we need to do that. I mean, people in Trussville like nice things, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes our city great, and so I hope we get to do that in the next few years. But I think if we control growth, really keep focusing on our schools, what makes any community go, or really the demise of any community, really probably starts with the schools. And
Mhm.
if we can keep our schools top notch, we can keep our home values up, we can attract the right businesses. I think you'll see Trussville continue to move up and move forward.
Yeah. So right now, because we'll wrap with this, and I've said this to almost everybody that I've recorded with that's running. No, except with the exception of Jim Miller and Kimberly Farr, since they're both running at the present time for place 4. Nobody else is running against you as of right now, but this is March, and those people have 3 months. If no one runs against you, I guess you don't have to do much campaign wise. But what leading up to the August election, what what are your plans, whether someone runs against you or not? Is it just to remain in the community and involved and that kind of thing, or what?
Absolutely. And you never know when somebody's going to come in, but both the last two elections, somebody came in the last day and ran
Yeah.
against me. So you never know. And we welcome that. That's everybody's privilege to come in and do that. Campaigning is not fun. It's not, but if I have somebody that runs against me, I'll get out and I'll tell the same message that I've told the last three terms. This is, people know who I am. They know what I believe in. I hope they know I love the city and I'm going to do what's right. I've tried to every single decision I've made for the city. And I think the new people on the council is learning this. It's not going to please everybody, but I've always tried to make the decision that I thought was best for the city as a whole. And people don't agree with all of them. I get it, but that's what I'll continue to do. I want to make decisions that really are good for the city as a whole, and so that's what I'll do. I'll always be in the community, whether I have an opponent or not. I'm going to still be out there. I've told every candidate so far that's running, that's put their name out there publicly, has contacted me and talked to me. I've told every single one of them, including Ben and Lisa, I'll help them any way I can. I will. I want to do that, and so I'll keep doing what I've been doing and being a part of the community and promoting Trussville. That's what I'll do.
Well, it's worked for 3 terms, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, I hope, and if it is, if people aren't satisfied, there's and a lot of people talk about term limits, but we have term limits because if people are tired of you, they get rid of you, so that's just the way it works. But I would tell anybody I'm going to continue to do exactly what I've done, and it's all about promoting Trussville and trying to make Trussville a better place.
Let's wrap it right there. That's a good way to end it.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to tell you, Gary, thank you for all you do. I thank you for the stuff you do for the history, the historical, the book writings, and all. But you're a good promoter of Trussville, so thank you for
I
all that you
appreciate
do.
that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. We'll keep plugging away at it and
Yeah.
see if we can do some educating. I'm hoping in the next couple of years with the state making those Department of Education changes with like civics classes and history classes down at the grade level, and then maybe there could be in the future an elective type class on your local history.
Oh, that would be awesome. So good.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Josh Haynes told me about that one, and I was like, I did not know that. And so, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we just had a Trussville history class at Hewitt Trussville High School in the new C Wing in the next few years?
That'd be that absolutely. I might go back and see if they would let me. What do they call it when you come in? You don't get credit. You just there's a word for it. But yeah,
there is a word for it, but it's escaping me.
Yeah, I might come back and do that. Yeah, audit that class. That's what they used to call it. Dude, come
there
in
you go.
Class. I might do that. Yeah.
Love it. Well, I appreciate you, Alan.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Me too. Thanks.